Hello there. Welcome back to Charles Circle, and welcome back to Captain of Industry. Last time, we built, among other things, our glass production. We also hit 1,000 population, something I didn't notice until after the recording stopped, but that's a fun milestone to have hit in our 10th episode. And, oh, yeah, that's right. We unlocked trains, which is obviously what we're going to focus on today. One, they're trains, and they're the focus of Update 3, so we're totally going to focus on them. Two, we absolutely need to focus on them because our transport network is wildly pressed right now. And you might be able to see that I let our base run for a little while since the end of the last episode, just to refill our construction parts buffer and pay down some of the massive loans that we took last time to fund our expansion. So don't worry, I didn't progress without you. I'll call out any minor changes that happened along the way as we encounter them. But the entire time that I was letting the base recover, i.e. not building new stuff, right? It should have been the moment where our truck network was the most chill, right? Where we asked the least of our trucks. And the entire time, it was red. We're at vehicle cap. There's nothing else we can really do here. We have simply outgrown our truck network as it's currently constituted. Our base is too large to be serviced with a fleet of pickups that only can carry 20 units of whatever at a time. We have to do something about that. And the biggest drains on our truck network are exactly the type of things, or dirt, rock, diesel, water, these sorts of things are exactly what trains are designed to help with. So, first things first, let's slap down a train depot and take a look at what we're working with. So, if you want to build a train, there are two types of trains. There's steam locomotives, and you can add tenders to them to give them a little bit more range, and diesel locomotives. Unsurprisingly, they take what you think they take to fuel on an ongoing basis: coal and water for steam locomotives and diesel for diesel locomotives. There are also different types of wagons that, just like our different types of belts or storages, are specific to what it is you're trying to carry. But they overall cost vehicle parts too, as you can see, along with steel, and depending on the wagon, sometimes, and really just for flatbeds, a little bit of wood. Okay. So that's what we would like to be supplying. And you can see, we can actually, fortunately, as a comparison to our old original vehicle depots, we can actually feed in the materials directly, which is definitely what we're going to do. Now, we don't make vehicle parts 2 yet. So we're going to have to do that here. And the other thing that we'll probably want to do is start building rail parts. This is what we will need in order to build the actual tracks that our trains will run on. So why not just do that here as well? So this is, I don't even want to call it a factory necessarily, right? But let's pull in at least the supporting, storages for the different items that we're going to need. And let's think about what else we might want to do here. So I said diesel, right? We'll arrange in a moment, but let's just get everything on the ground as usual. So diesel, we will also need, in order to make railway parts, steel and concrete slabs. In order to make construction parts 2, as a reminder, we'll also need glass and to make vehicle parts 2, we will also naturally need vehicle parts 1. Now, we do make some over here, right? But maybe we don't really need vehicle parts 1 except to use them to make vehicle parts 2 anymore. Maybe we should consider just integrating building the necessary and only the necessary vehicle parts 1 into our vehicle parts 2 supply chain. If we were going to do that, it would be as simple as, well, mechanical parts and electronics. Electronics, we already make a ton of over here, so no problem, right? Let's put it in here. But mechanical parts, we're in kind of this weird limbo, right? We used to make them back when we made them off of iron, right over here at our old, on the way out the door, iron smelting facility. As you can see, we've paused it. We just don't need iron for hardly anything anymore. And as a reminder, we have our little steel for iron quick trade, which is more efficient than making it ourselves in a lot of ways. So, that said, we still needed mechanical parts. So what we've been doing is bringing some steel over here and then making it out of steel in these little assemblies. The thing here is that because when you make out of iron, as we mentioned before, into mechanical parts, 30 into 24 means that it's actually more efficient to make, from a transportation perspective, more efficient, I mean, to make the mechanical parts at the site that you're making the iron plates, because you'd rather carry 24 units of mechanical parts than 30 units of iron. There is no distinction between the two. A unit is equal to a unit of anything else. However, that logic flips on its head when we go from steel at 12 to mechanical parts that same 24. So here it actually makes more transport network sense to bring the steel to wherever we're going to be building things and make the mechanical parts on site. So since we already have to bring steel over here anyways, why don't we simply make mechanical parts as part of the reason that we have our steel here, right? While we're slapping down assemblies, let's also add the one for our rail parts. We'll need to do that as well. And as we said, we kind of want to consider bringing these over as well. We only need vehicle parts 1 to the extent that we need them for vehicle parts 2. Speaking of which, there we go. Now we kind of want a lot of these, right? 4 is not a lot. And if we were going to build a train, for example, the engine alone is 80 vehicle parts 2, and then each of these wagons is 10. We're also not going to be done with trucks, but we could upgrade our pickups to the proper truck, which has 60 capacity instead of 20. We do that at a vehicle depot, control scroll up, 2. Very similar to vehicle depot 1, but it is capable of making these larger trucks, these larger excavators, by the way, something we'll definitely want to do to get our mining, up a little bit higher throughput as well. And since we're making vehicle parts 2 here anyway, why don't we just double up this production, because we'll need 16 vehicle parts 1 between these two. And hey, would you look at that? We make 16 in one of these. So let's put this at the same general facility, right? Now, do we need anything else here to build larger trucks that we have not yet accounted for in our train build? Well, let's take a peek. Ah, there it is. Rubber. We need rubber for, I don't know, tires, I guess, right? We already bring over the diesel and we're already making the vehicle parts too, so I think we should also bring over rubber. Now here's a question. If we're bringing rubber, should we also make our own electronics on site? I would say not. One, bringing copper over is kind of the same ask for our truck network to bring the same amount, 24 or 24, of electronics over. but then we're also going to ask for a marginal increase in 6 rubber. So I think we should bring rubber, but bring electronics separately. We really have no problem making a pretty good amount of them over here for export to the base. We've even built our 3rd row here, and that's, you know, it's pretty rare that all 3 of these are active at once. So I think we are more than fine to just pull from that manufacturing. Okay. I suppose we'll also want to account for the fact that we are exporting, so to speak, railway parts. Rail parts are not an input to the train depot. They are essentially a construction materials type good that, you know, the rest of the base will need to come pick up and then go drop off at wherever it is we're building the rails, right? Okay. So I think this is, oh, not quite everything. We also said that for one type of wagon, we'll need some wood. So this will be not that important, but why not also bring it over? It'd be silly to go 90% of the way, but not the rest of it. Okay. So we'll do connections and orientations in a moment, but let's talk about where we want this. So these inputs are all, and you can see I've lined them up in the same way that we do on this road here. They are all manufactured goods, basically, that are available here. So it would be kind of nice from that perspective to keep things on the avenue. I've been calling this Broad Street in my mind so far. So that's one thing to consider. The other is where we put our train depot, and to a smaller extent, our vehicle depot, is going to impact, you know, where these vehicles are released into the wild, so to speak. That was part of the rationale we cited for moving this up a little bit further. It matters a little bit less for vehicles, but for trains, we do actually have to connect by rail out to the rest of the rail network. The trains have to actually leave here and drive to wherever it is, even if their stations are going to be here and here for the rest of the train's entire life, they have to be able to get out there by rail. So we do want this connected to our rail network. The last consideration is that this train depot, by default, for example, can only make trains of a certain length. 6, seems like. Well, what if we want much larger trains than that? Because the larger the train, the more you're able to move for a more amortized fixed cost of the engine, right? An engine pulling one wagon is kind of a waste of an engine. An engine pulling 8 wagons is, well, the fuel and maintenance and population cost of running that engine is now spread over 8 times as much of the benefit, right? So longer trains is better. And I do think, and I won't soapbox about this, but I do think that there's been some initial misunderstanding in the community about the right way to utilize these. And by right way, I simply mean most aligned with the developer's vision as best I can interpret it, right? There's no right or wrong way to play a video game. You play the way that is fun to you, right? But I think the way that the developers have designed this, they envision long trains. I won't go too far down that rabbit hole, but we'll point out why that's helpful and how that works nicely within the system as we go along. So how do you do that? Well, you build not just one, but as many train depot extensions as you like. And now all of a sudden you can have, well, it has to actually be built first, but you can add, I think each of these adds, maybe it'll tell us, I think it's something like another 3. Nope, went back after recording and checked the wiki. It's +4. It was +2 on release, but they buffed it in a follow-up patch pretty quickly to +4 wagons per train depot extension building. Back to the live recording. All right, with all of that in mind, what that means is we want to make sure that we have some space here. We're definitely not going to build all of that immediately, right? But we want to make sure that we're able to extend the depot out that direction. All of those reasons combined, I kind of think where we want to have this is like maybe here-ish, right? It's still on Broad Street, so to speak, and we're able to, if we put it roughly here, keep building extensions out this way as necessary. If we really have to, we can dump dirt and extend a pier, right? That will be very far in the future, if ever. And our train network, as we said, is likely not to come down Broad Street, or at least not to have stations on Broad Street, but to do a lot of work in this area, right? This is where ore is dropped off. We don't mind our trucks being responsible for moving around our intermediate and finished goods in the manufacturing process. We do not want little trucks to have to run all the way out here every time we need 20 more copper because we're burning through 120 copper per minute. Do we really want 6 trucks? Even if we upgrade them, do we really want 2 larger trucks going every minute back and forth? That's why our truck network is so taxed. So I think that the rail network is likely to be in sort of this space more so than over here. So I think having it open out to the back here will be helpful. The only reason not to do it is our iron setup is still there. Well, that's kind of a silly reason. Since the very beginning of this game, we have talked about this as a temporary setup. And I think you can tell where I'm going with this. Today is finally the day that we decommission this. We don't need to be producing iron at a high enough velocity that we can't just cover it with the quick trade. This quick trade is more efficient from an iron ore perspective, which is what I'm choosing to solve for at this moment, because 40 steel is made out of 80 iron ore, 100 iron is made out of 100 iron ore. That's what I'm most concerned about right now. Now, if we do this, 5 times a minute, this price goes up and that ratio that I just quoted inverts, and we don't want that. But as long as we don't need more than, 100 iron or 2 every minute or 5, which is way more than we actually need. We only really need it to repair our boat at this point. Then we should be okay to remove this and simply trade excess steel when we need iron on demand. The one problem that leaves us with is the relocation of our mechanical parts. I've got to solve for that too. Because we're about to decommission our vehicle parts production, vehicle parts 1, and because this same factory space requires mechanical parts in order to supply maintenance, and that's not going anywhere anytime soon, what if we just took these 2 assemblies, changed their recipe, upgraded them probably, fed them steel instead of mechanical parts, and adjusted the belts as necessary? To me, that's a better use of this space, and it removes the last tiny complaint or argument against clearing this whole space out. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So I'm going to go into a tiny little time lapse, should be relatively quick, where I clear all this out, move all this over here, and set up our connections. So I'll see you shortly on the other side. Yeah, I don't know. Something like that. I feel like that works. Okay, so just to trace it real quick again, Vehicle Depot 2 is getting parts 2, diesel, rubber, which should be, it needs steel. That's right. One more thing. How are we getting its steel? I guess probably like this. Let's go one over instead and simply connect there. All right, good. That's why we check. So steel. I don't really care for the large harvesters so much, but it seems like that would also be covered. And then our train station is getting parts 2, steel, wood, on the very rare occasion it needs that, and diesel. Oh, and I also threw down a little fuel station because I thought we have diesel here already, and this has probably got to go. It's in the middle of the road. So we'll probably end up making another one up here, but this way we have something still down in this space as well. So this assembly should crank out rail parts. If we need to unity boost it, we can, but I really don't think we need to have more than one of these machines placed from the start. This is how we're making our vehicle parts 2. It's also got, so this storage for parts 1 is less so that we build up a buffer, but more so that we bring in any parts we either find out in the ocean from Bertha, or when we upgrade these little trucks into big trucks, I think we get back the parts 1 that we spent, or some fraction of them, and they do us no good, parts 1, anymore until we, except for if we turn them into parts 2. So I actually want trucks to be able to drop off here as well. That will save us some resources, instead, which is great. And then, even if we don't have that though, these 16 will keep up with these 2 assemblies for vehicle parts 2, and this will split out according to need. Okay. I think, can you control scroll? No, you cannot. This is a different type of building. I think the last thing I will do is blueprint. I don't know. Let's just blueprint a few of them, right? But we're definitely not going to build all of them right away. I think we might build one right away. We'll find out. But yeah, I mean, I think that's it. I think that's going to do it. So I'm going to unpause, build everything, I guess. It's going to take a moment. This is nothing for now, but because there's a parts 4 somewhere in here. Purple, see it? I just want to make sure that we left space here, but that's the last one, I believe. Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't see anything else. So we have space here as well. So that's good. And you're stuck. I accidentally painted you in. We're going to keep this here just as a reminder to ourselves. And then I think this should also, we haven't had to build out this far yet. In theory, I was sort of reserving space in this direction. I think we're going to be okay for a bit. We'll cross that bridge if we have to, but I think we're okay. All right, so this is all going, but the other thing that we have to do, and in quick order because our maintenance requires it, we need to change these to be our steel version, actually, so we need to upgrade these to 3s. Our steel version of mechanical parts, which will not be a valid thing to do until they are upgraded. This we will allow to get over here real quick. All right, good. Now you're good. Go. Okay, great. This we would like to clear out and call mechanical parts. I mean, here's the thing. We're not going to export mechanical parts anywhere else from this location anymore. We only needed them at this location and over here, but we've built the integrated component. So I actually would say we should save ourselves that storage, remove it, and instead maybe run this back here, right? I think that makes sense. What we're going to need instead is to run steel over here. And we don't need this entire electronics line anymore because these machines will not take electronics. Update your little icon, you're freaking me out. You won't take these lifts either. And so what we actually need is not this. We need this to pause, these to be removed. Yeah, I think what we want is to clear these out, call this steel, delete this, and instead we do run this line basically to there, huh? So let's say, well, I have to let it deconstruct for a moment. Let's bring this over here. I guess until you get the products, you're going to be weird about it, right? Our poor truck network. I'm going to use Unity to deconstruct here, right? Because what we need here, again, if you can go, what we need instead is steel. So this line is not necessary. In fact, this whole set of resources needs cleared out. Drain what was in the connector. And this now needs connected to steel, which I think we can do with a nice little flat lift. And just say, please, come on, over here. The set of sorters, balancers, that we put in here is not strictly necessary anymore, right? Because we don't need, like, this is basically just one in, one out now. I mean, it still works, so I guess we don't have to delete it, right? Yeah. In fact, let's keep it simple then. I'll do it that way. All right, this should work. We'll find out, but it should work. Let's come back to that in a moment. Tree harvesters. So our tree harvesters have been hard at work clearing the space that I think is going to be our first couple of rail lines. So, in fact, they've been so hard at work that I added some temporary storage again, just to make sure that this stuff was out of the way, because it was in the way. So I'm gonna clear some of this debris to make it a little bit easier for us to see and to build in this area. Just totally nuking my Unity right now, but we make a ton of it right now, which is great. We simply aren't using it on anything, which is fine by me. nothing needs a boost. The other cool thing about letting the base run for a little while, it was a nice stress test to see could our systems run at basically like max capacity for a while, because that's what we were doing, was continuously pulling on construction parts, and we held up okay. I think our weakest link was concrete, actually. I did have to finally break down and connect this iron mine output to this steel factory input. In my head, I wanted to keep these separate, right? Because they're technically two separate facilities and they should be connected. They just happen to be close to each other. But it was very silly. Like, this was full and this wasn't, and so therefore the steel wasn't running because our trucks were too busy. Like, just run the damn belt, right? So, so I did that. And once I did that, our steel was able to keep up just fine. So that's good. That's good. The copper acid boost is real. This feels very nice. We've been very full here. And then, you know, we haven't even started to use glass. So obviously, like, this may not actually be enough glass for steady state. Who knows? We'll find out. We might have to build the second piece, but we aren't really using any of it yet. Now that said, all right, now we have the parts. We just need to build. So let's do that. Let's at least get the storages going. And maybe so that we get a bit of a buffer. Yeah, good, that one's going. I want to get, like, we're going to need this. This is basically a new construction part, right? And so our buffer for that is 0 right now. This is good news, right? This is already full. In fact, we probably have, yeah, so when I did all of that resetting, right, we sent a lot of stuff to the shipyard, which is fine. But we have a good little bit of extra there as well. Speaking of which, every time I see the ship is here, it's a good reminder. All right, so we are now, we're not blocked, these locations, from, you know, an enemy, but there's also like a fuel range. So we'll have to get that upgrade to get to this row, but we can keep working our way around here. So we'll do that. What else would be good to quick build priority-wise? I guess I'd really like to see one of these going, right? So, sure. Let's do that. That should help. Good. I'm not as worried about getting our Vehicle Parts 1 production going, given the pretty significant buffer we already have there. But these are things I would like to get filled. Sadly, that requires trucks. I mean, the good news is these trucks are quote-unquote a waste because we're actually keeping up with our coal production. That was a minor issue last time, but we are hanging in there just fine now. Same thing out here. All of our mining is just fine. So let's use Unity not because we're in a rush, but because we would simply like to help our truck network out, you know? And save them the trouble of having to deliver all this. So, here's a question. And I think I have an answer. I'd love to build trains right away. We're going to have relatively limited parts too for a minute, right? I'd love to build trains right away. First train we build is useless until we build all of the stations and tracks that go along with it. So I think in the meanwhile, actually, what we might do is help our truck network out by upgrading a little bit. Now, of course, this is mad. Ah, I have a belt the wrong way. What a silly problem. Okay, that should get fixed. Wonderful. So I think in the meanwhile, we're going to upgrade the pickups that we have with whatever vehicle parts too we get. We're going to upgrade the pickups. In fact, pause this belt so we don't just have like a silly inventory sitting here stuck. Where we have the ability. So this vehicle upgrader is a nice little quality of life thing. We can just say, hey, can you continuously just upgrade all of our pickups into trucks over time? And that'll be helpful because we'll have the same number of trucks, right? But over time, more and more of them will have 3 times the capacity they used to have. All right. Yeah, we win these, right? Even the 2-on-1s with scout ships. Yeah, so this is out because this still hasn't gotten delivered yet. But maintenance 1 will be a more important thing to solve here. And in fact, why not? Hey, while we're here, we placed this last time, but to be fair to you, I did build the outputs. Oh, and in fact, I was saving activation of the outputs so that you could see this. So we take in our recycling, our waste sorting plant, we take in the recyclables from our labs and our maintenance. And hey, by the way, I suppose we should be researching something. There's actually nothing that's particularly pressing right now. I think we might just work our way towards additional vehicle cap. But so it takes these sort of mixed recyclables, right? Those go in, and sorted recyclables come out. This will be glass when we start using glass parts. But this copper scrap and this iron scrap, right, go out here to our smelting facilities and are prioritized over ore. And in fact, I think we actually need to, at least in the short term, unclog this facility. Nice though, right? I also think this is useless. We don't need it anymore. So let's get some of those parts back, along with the ability, maybe more importantly, for trucks to drive through here more directly. Are we catching back up here? We are. Are you getting what you need here? Different question. But we're still fine. Good. Okay. What else is happening here? Oh, another oil rig. Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Why is that really good? Well, you see, our current oil rig is giving us 120 minutes, and that's great. And that's enough for half of this oil facility. Now, that's totally keeping up for now. I don't think we're fully consuming it. But at the moment that we do, we could upgrade it even further. That's expensive. And by the way, this also increases, and this also increases. And more importantly, this decreases. And 600 years, remember when we had this at level 1, it was like 1,300, 1,400 years, something like that? Because we've upgraded it, it's half that now, right? And remember, just like our first patch, this pace is only going to accelerate over time, particularly if we upgrade it. Well, only if we upgrade it, but right. So it's actually, I think, more helpful to have a couple lower level rigs than one massive rig that you overinvest into and then tear through. And it's also helpful at transition points. That was a very nail-bitey transition from our initial oil patch. It wouldn't have been if we had 2 other patches to rely on during the transition, right? So, for example, this coal mine out here we'll probably get it up and going just at a low rate by the time this finishes up and we're thinking about transitioning out here, right? Even just having the option makes that a lot potentially more smooth, right? I think we'll let the first extension go. Why not? You're back. You can't unload because we're full, because we have truck issues, naturally. But we can still send you out. So let's do that. Can we reach here? We can. That's nice. I was worried about fuel range, but that seems fine. Good. Waiting for delivery, of course, naturally is going to be an issue, but vehicle parts 2 production, is this actually happening? Oh my gosh, because no steel, no glass. All right, this is suddenly, at least initially, top priority. Because this is a catch-22. We can't fix our truck network without bigger trucks. And we can't make bigger trucks without vehicle parts 2. And we can't make vehicle parts 2 right now because we haven't brought over the necessary materials to make them because our trucks are too busy. All right, so in the longer run, this doesn't have to be running 24/7. It's not as important. But right now, we are stuck. We can't shift gears until that's resolved. This will also be a nice test of our glass throughput because this is the first time we've consumed glass, and we're not even consuming it quite yet. We're moving it, right? Here's a question, actually. If I spend the Unity to quick remove this, does it all go over here? Oh my gosh, it does. All right, we're just doing that. That won't work for steel because we have multiple steel spots, right? But because there's only 2 storages, when you quick remove, it goes to the nearest storage with space. And if there isn't one, to the shipyard, right? So the overflow you see went there. But was a Unity way to move stuff down here, nice and quick at least. Still, we need the steel, but it's happening. I might even say, just to get us going, let's boost. It's what it's there for. Who's full? You're full. You're blocked because you're full of the good stuff. You don't need to let me know that. I know that's out of fuel because we haven't prioritized dropping anything off yet. Doesn't matter. Oh, we have fuel station 2 upgrade, by the way. What is the difference? Let's go find out. When did we even get that? Where on earth is fuel station 2? Someone watching right now is screaming because it's clearly on screen, right? Well, maybe it was large vehicles. Yeah, it was. Well, it probably just has a higher capacity or the ability to attach more trucks or something. I don't think that's our issue right now. I'm not going to prioritize resources to tackle it. We are caught back up on maintenance, by the way. Global demand, 787. We can do 960 now, actually, which is great and good. Our recycling rate is keeping up. These are, yeah, okay, good. So these are coming out. And would you look at that? Isn't that beautiful? This is ore avoidance. Or it would be if we upgraded this. Whoopsie. Right now it's only 50% ore avoidance, right? Because we can put in this twice as much, or I guess probably 30%, or I don't know, whatever. Some fraction. But now it should be better. Probably not perfect, but maybe better. As long as what comes out here is 200 or less, that's what we can do here. And so not only is that ore avoidance, right? It's also less coal and less slag to truck around later and less exhaust. This is most important because we don't spend as much coal. This is also important because we don't have to spend as much trucks tossing slag into the ocean. That's a side benefit of the coal as well, being less. There's less coal trips required to support this. And our health is actually starting to get crappy, so I don't mind a little bit of pollution avoidance either. We'll get technology that allows us to address it, but we're not there yet. And I'll say the same thing over here probably needs done, right? So let's upgrade this. Less of a problem over here, I think, just because we're using less, and so the 60 belt is less of a bottleneck, but it does still need done. Edict upgrades. We haven't looked at our edicts in a while. I still like generating unity for food. We are full on food. The rest of these cost and don't really give us much that I'm super interested in. These could be... we could be starting to think about these. We're okay for now. I don't want to spend one full unity on them, but it's a good reminder that these are here. They are closer to being worth it now than they have ever been. And that will continue, of course. How are we doing here? Another pair of scout ships, which we can win, but will cost us a little bit more. Just fine. Alright, so good. This is actually working to the point we have... oh my gosh. Oh, because the diesel isn't being filled up. This is also going to be temporarily an emergency. That was a nice pile of scrap. We'll take that. This may now drop back down to, let's call it 5. We just don't actually have that much steel coming out, huh? Maybe we boost it. 50%. That does not require this boosted or this boosted. But that should increase our throughput by 50%, which will also help us run down this loose storage. This seems to be working. It's not pretty. It's still working. When we, similarly to moving from vehicle parts 1 to vehicle parts 2, we built a whole facility for it. When we, inevitably, need to move up to lab equipment 2, similarly, we'll have to add in a couple other resources. We'll create a whole new facility for that as well, and that'll just basically turn this into a maintenance facility, which will simplify things. We'll probably just clear out everything here, rebuild these over here, and it'll be nice and tight, and we'll have all this space. I have some ideas on what we'll use that for, but we'll see. The other thing I'm going to do in the meanwhile here is we've got concrete slabs, a little bit in excess. I keep calling this Broad Street. It's dirt. It's ridiculous. I think we're going to start paving. We haven't even talked about paving yet, but you can add surfaces in this game. These surfaces, well, they cost resources, most notably concrete, although you can do some other stuff in here. Yeah, there we go. We can do steel surfaces. Steel's pretty expensive for that. But every single one of these, in addition to being a lovely cosmetic, reduces maintenance for vehicles driving on it. I guess proportional to how much time they spend on it. So we definitely can't afford to do a million of these all at once, right? What is that? 4 by 4, 8, 16. This is a 16 by 16. Like we do not have that much concrete lying around. So we want to prioritize it in the spaces where our trucks are most driving. And the good news is on dirt, that's the brown spots. So I think what we'll do, this seems as good a spot as any, we will start paving. Later, you can paint onto it, and that's neat. But for now, we're just going to start with getting some surface stuff down, and I will make it look like a road a little bit more later on once we have a bit more of a lasting understanding of where these things are going to go. Good. This is going power. Oh, wow. Are we finally? Yeah, our flywheel is barely turning at all, which is meaning that we are using basically all of our power. Unified the smokestack over here, by the way, because burning oil, compared to coal, does actually push the exhaust up past what a non-unity boosted smokestack can do. And since we'd have to do it basically continuously, I didn't really want to waste unity. I just built a unified smokestack. So power, not a continuous issue, but one, I know what happened because we're maybe making, no, I don't know what happened. Consumption, who uses? We probably just had a pulse in some sort of production chain. Oh, I guess maybe it was all of this turning on or up, or I don't know. Anyway, it's a good overview though, right? Assemblies take a huge chunk of power. Our base itself, like the settlement, this is like civilian consumption, not insignificant. Copper electrolysis, as the name suggests, it takes electricity and it runs it through water. It's also intensive. Research labs, air separators are a lot. You know, air separators are an interesting building, right? They have zero input from a resource perspective, but they definitely have a power input. So it's actually, I think, more reasonable to think about this as this building turns power into oxygen than anything else. All right, but we have got to get ourselves a train built, don't we? First train that I'm thinking, if we look at our network, moving coal, I've gotten rid of sort of mining and tree harvesting, and let's remove fueling too. What are our general usage trucks moving around the most? It is coal. Now, I'm not going to run a train from here to every single place that we need coal, right? That's not super helpful. But you know how every single one of these coal runs starts? Is that a truck, wherever it is, goes all the way out here and then all the way back. So if we do train just from here to here, we're going to cut that part out of every single one of those trips. So that's, I think, our starter train line. And we'll definitely expand things from there, but we should get something on the board, right? Now, what does that look like? Well, we'll have a train station. I don't know, here, here. And then this train station will have some station modules. We're going to do 2 to start here. This is coal. We will load coal at this station. We're going to call this coal mine export. Then we'll basically do the same thing, but I don't know, what do we think? Here? We really should just do it here, right? At the top of Broad. This will then output coal. Change this to unload. And in fact, we'll add a nice little extra loose storage at the end of each of these, right? That will allow us to keep lots of coal here, and everyone can come grab it. Okay. The other thing we need, though, is a way for our train to refuel. Now, there's 2 different ways you can do this, depending on the train. We said there were steam locomotives and diesel locomotives. The steam fuel module requires coal and water, And the diesel requires diesel. No surprise. If you place one of these in the station, wherever it is, the train will automatically refill. So here's the thing. Steam and diesel trains have different intrinsic capabilities. Diesel is, I mean, there's a lot that goes into this, but the long and short of it is that diesel is a little bit better on flat surfaces, and diesel and steam's a little bit better tractive wise, so climbing hills and stuff, and I guess also, you know, acceleration. This is a flat surface, so in a vacuum I would use diesel. But the other thing that's, I think, more important than those marginal differences sometimes that people can get caught up in is, well, how easy is it to refuel? You know what's going to be easy to refuel? Our coal line? Freaking coal. Don't overthink it, right? So let's just do that. Never have to worry about fuel again. Once we, I guess, to be fair, put a little bit of water in here as well. So that's that. Naturally, we'll need to connect the train line itself. I very intentionally put this in a big dumb straight line. And this is not how we're going to build most of our train network, to be sure. But for this first trip, for this first line, we basically just need a shuttle back and forth, right? Now, the other cool thing about these trains, let's actually sketch out the one we want to build. The way that they've done this system is awesome. You actually can have as many cars as you want, even if the station only has so many modules. The train will move up and down in the station so that whatever you know, viable unload or load task exists can happen on each of the different cars. You'll see what that looks like in motion. But basically, what that means is, as long as we give it the room to navigate, we will be able to have a pretty long train line if we are so inclined. Now, this is a relatively short one anyway, so I'm not quite so sure it's that necessary, but it's fun. So we're gonna do 6, and we're gonna put, it doesn't actually matter the direction that this faces, it's kind of weird, but trains will run faster if the direction they are going is led by a locomotive. So this is not how I build most of my trains, but this is a fine way to build a starter train, in my opinion. So in order for you to have 6 cars that are all able to be serviced out here, we are going to also need to build enough track for it to run past. Just have a little bit of overage, so to speak. Same thing will be true out here. Now, the other thing we've just done is put a barrier across a huge chunk of our base. So what are we going to do about that? Well, that is what level crossings are for. You get a small one, you can get a large one, doesn't matter. I think for now, what we're going to do is place, one here. I guess we really actually should use the small ones for now. And I'm just going to copy this concept, essentially, and place it a few different spots out here. I figure that's not a bad place for it. Maybe, well, we'll probably end up placing another, but I think those are good to start. Okay. That should be good, except for one thing, one very important thing. Like I said, let's build our train, but he's got to get out there. So we're gonna need to build some tracks that connect out there as well. So we built a straight track there. Obviously, we're gonna have to do some curves as a result here. So FYI, you can change the minimum track radius for the tightness of the turn. Red, by the way, means a very low top speed for a train going through. So the tighter the radius, the slower the train has to go. Makes sense. Yellow is a pretty reasonable compromise. It's obviously slower, but it's still relatively tight. Blue is more or less top speed, right? But it's a much larger radius. Now, I don't care about trains getting in and out of the depot, right? On this line, we want top speed as much as possible to make the trip short. This is not a line that we have to think about in that same way. This is something that a train should do once in its lifetime, right? In reality, it's going to have to make its way back and, you know, to get upgraded and all of that. But like, realistically, we don't need to be thinking about this as a particularly common trip, and so we don't care if it's a little bit slow in places. No, not like that. So we need it to meet up here. And I think we probably need it to meet up in both directions, really. Because which way will it prefer to exit? Who knows? I mean, it could be different each time. Although I think just to start, we know our train's going to go this way first. So let's just do that. It's fine. But we do probably need then another crossing. And actually, you know what? This probably should be a large crossing because this is going to be higher traffic, I think. I don't know what our traffic patterns are going to look like for trucks once the train, you know, effect takes place. So we're probably going to move those around. I'm not going to stress about perfect placement there. First thing we'll do is Unity build those crossings, though, just so that our trucks are able to get around in the meanwhile, right? That is an issue because they do actually respect, whether they should or shouldn't, they do respect blueprints as essentially the same as normal buildings. So let's do that. Let's build a bunch of track. I find it's kind of interesting, and I don't know, maybe it'll improve, but I find that I actually prefer to Unity build tracks as much as I can, although we don't have any rail parts. I don't know why I'm thinking about that right now. For whatever reason, I find that trucks tend to build these kind of slow, like they'll only bring out a couple pieces at a time. I think it's related to the logic of how small of a piece it is. They'll try to build only very small chunks at a time sometimes. I know that's not how the logic is supposed to work. They're supposed to bundle them together as a series of tasks, but I don't always find that to be my experience. That could be a me thing, but that is why I tend to Unity build them. Of course, I haven't actually Unity built anything here because I didn't build any rail parts. Oh my gosh, this also takes gravel. Don't worry, we make gravel. But I kind of forgot that we wanted to siphon some of this off, right? We make a ton of gravel over here, no problem, but we do need to account for it. Good news though, right? This is some of the logic that we've already built in. So you don't need to keep this full. You absolutely can come pick up, that's the point. And that one needs built, okay. Because this is the thing, we make gravel, we didn't store any of it, so I actually can't even quick build it. This has to come out. I don't really, well, yeah, sure I do. Why is this not accepting this? Oh, because it's rock. Here we go. I think we might even, because it's cheap and I'm in a hurry, Do that. How's our steel holding up? Now we've gone through our recyclables. Good. Go probably through it in copper too, right? Yeah. Well, it's good to be continuously sort of at least diluting out the amount of ore we need. So we'll take that. All right. I think we are also, yeah, naturally gonna need to do that. I wonder, should we build a priority balancer? Probably, huh? I mean, this is good to have. Oh, don't assign big trucks here. That's ridiculous. Big trucks should be doing something far more valuable. How many big trucks do we have now, by the way? We're up to 5. Okay, that's nice. Good. Is that a loan that we could take? Wonder. Sadly, it appears not. Rail parts is, though. Yeah, we're doing it. And I think the rail parts, or the tracks, excuse me, stored within these crossings are going to be the very first ones we prioritize. Otherwise, I don't think we can use the crossings, which means we still have completely blocked everything here. Good. So that's a start. I suppose, why not? Similarly, let's do that. How's gravel looking? Good. Gravel's easy. Gravel's easy. Let's keep Bertha going. And let the speed run here for a second. I do think we will pause a little bit, try to get our train going. And I guess we can unpause all of this now, really. Steel is still going. A burst there. Okay, and then we have to set up the line, right? Now, the problem is we don't have our stations built quite yet. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Mistake. Huge mistake. I built a diesel train. Whoops. Jeez. All right, take 2. Good news, right? The pieces we do still need are still there. It's just we brought over diesel we didn't need. Now we've moved that back out, but we need to get a little bit of coal over. So that is one thing we didn't actually set up, is the ability to deliver coal and water here, which is, I believe, what these last 2 slots are for. But we're not going to build a ton, I think, of steam trains. Ooh, more damaged cargo ships. Good. I think we're going to generally build diesel, so I think that's okay. We'll bring over coal and water by hand as we need to, but I guess that means we do have to do that at least. And we will want to... Yeah, we have no unity. All right, Steel. You're gonna have to keep up yourself. Need more unity. Who has low rock? Well, we're good on gravel, so we don't need that anymore. Good. So, this is all being built. We'll need to configure the line. We haven't told this train what to do yet. We're also, what I just told it to do, was bother running the train only if at least one of these modules is empty, meaning that there's room. You don't want to run a train and therefore incur the fuel cost, etc., unless it's necessary, especially early on. All right, I'm gonna let this run. Let the Unity rail parts, etc., build up along with the train to complete construction. Oh, I can do that. And then we'll cut back in here when we are ready to send it on its maiden voyage. All right, we're back. I'm gonna do two things real quick. We unlocked more vehicle cap. And so rather than upgrading, I would actually prefer that we make new, right? There's more room. Which means now that we have finished building our train, we can get back to letting these run over here. That should help our train, or our road network, geez, which will be super important. Additionally, we're gonna quick build all of the station. Nope, not quite. What do we need here? That's a loan just waiting to happen, isn't it? Let's try that again. And why not speed that along as much as we can. All right, we should hopefully be able to configure the line now, at least. And so, line 1. What is line 1? Line 1 is this train. We are going to make it black for coal. Actually, we'll just do that. And we'll add a stop here. Add a stop here. And that should do it, I think. There's a lot of little things you can do. Here you can create groups. You can say, pick one of these several parallel stations. You can say only low fuel allowed here, which is basically a way to use a separate sort of side station just as a refueling station. There's all sorts of, so the export, right? We're not going to unload anything at the export. We're going to load coal. I mean, it's going to do this anyway, because that's the only thing that's viable, but just to illustrate it, we're going to then unload coal. Although we need to rename this station, don't we? Oh no, yes, yeah, I had it backwards. Load coal here, obviously. Unload coal here. This station needs renamed because I just copied it. Whoopsie. We'll call this manufacturing coal import. Great. So here it is. Why are you mad? Can't reach the destination. That is because, well, we still have to finish building, huh? But I think we just did, which means there she blows. All right. So this is our backwards facing first train. And so let's, oh no, Give it something to actually load, right? Because we probably don't have, yeah, of course not. Coal here. And actually, what's the right way to do this? You cannot, yeah, let's do it like this. We should have, in fact, this maybe just run out here. Why not? Why make trucks do any of this, right? And in fact, with that in mind, let's push the coal over there. Okay, so this should help. But let's say for you, you may export your coal that you've drug up here, or here, or here. And that's it, right? So that should properly configure our coal to all arrive here. And now, so this is what I meant. You can get, well, apparently just a little poof of coal every time. But using only the 2 station modules, we can service all 6. In fact, you only need 1. It just takes twice as long. So I usually put down 2 just to speed up the processing. Not that that's our bottleneck here at all, but I figure why not, right? I would love to also, yes, see, this is where big trucks really come in handy, are these massive loads where it's like, please, the rock is clogging us up. Let's just launch it into the ocean, right? That's good stuff. I'm even going to, I think, proactively, going to tell trucks that they can match the coastline here for dumping from these mines out this way. Cool, so now you can see we're up over 140 again. We're actually just making net new trucks. We don't have to get rid of a pickup truck to upgrade into a normal truck. We can just make a new normal truck, which will be nice. Steel import is an issue, but I actually genuinely cannot justify keeping it at 1, because we also need steel for more important things like maintenance, by way of being turned into machine parts. You don't have somewhere to dump products. Yes, you do. Cool. Well, this is it. And so are we configured over here? This we want people not to be able to come to, but to be able to withdraw from. And fortunately, this will allow us, see, we drain it all out, to refuel accordingly. Now our trucks are only coming over here to refuel the various different factories we have. Look at that. And our truck network immediately. This isn't just because we added a couple trucks. This isn't just because we got a couple bigger trucks. We have 30 idle pickups now, and 6 of our 10 large trucks are idle. Coal is already falling. This is why you build trains. This is why you build trains. We just brought over what do you think this was? These were basically empty. People are already taken from them. A few hundred coal, right? This train is totally empty. Let's just see how much, now that we're at roughly max capacity. Are we even? $120. That's 6 pickups. That's about 16 pickups worth of coal. Zipped right out here. For the cost of a tiny bit of its own coal. Uses less than 1 per trip and water. And less maintenance than belts running the same distance, even if they had that throughput. So take that, everyone who's bringing their Factorio bus bias in here. This is why trains work in this game. Different games, totally valid. And again, there's no wrong way to play. It's a game. Play the way that is fun to you. This is why I think trains are super helpful and super important. Okay, so we're getting each pair of these. The back one is getting more, and that is because this is not a 200 belt. That should even it out. Not that it's super important. It won't matter until we get actually like full per train ride, and that is highly unlikely to happen anytime soon. But here we go. This is great. All right. I think we will call it there for this episode. But with that proof of principle, with that demonstration, and by the way, with some of this we're going to be able to reuse, we will be adding a ton of train lines soon. And I've got quite a few ideas. I think we might add one here and bring refinery products up into this area. I kind of want to think about this area as a train logistics hub. Bring in the ore, bring in the coal, transport back and forth to the refinery, and bring in the rock and dirt in the longer run too, because that's costing us a ton of truck trips as well, right? I would love to have trains that take all of the ore or all of the dirt and rock that's brought into the center that then just run out to wherever it is that we're dumping recently. So we have just unlocked a huge step change in the way that our logistics are going to work on this map. And by doing that, we have opened up the rest of this island for our own exploitation. Exciting stuff. All right. Well, as always, thanks for joining, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.